lovely and excellent people, be nice. We've never had any questions or problems with our code of conduct from anybody who's been here, but if you do, if anyone makes you feel ostracized or for any reason you don't feel happy and good, come and talk to me and Adam. We will take it very seriously. Okay, so that's all our logistics done. We have pleased to have Franz actually here, which is good. So our session next month is Franz is going to talk about beyond Copilot, embedded AI in systems and processes. Do you want to give us an overview of it, Franz?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. It's basically so much of the focus at the moment is what I call personal productivity AI, which is really exciting, Copilot, Claude, all that kind of stuff. That's great. Where it really starts making a difference to organizations is when you start looking at your systems and processes and figure out how do you put AI into those. And I don't just mean replace all of your customer reps with AI. It's a bad idea, don't do that. But how can you actually fit it in and where does that fit? And that's what so we've done that for a number of clients. So I'm going to give you very real, concrete examples and also kind of questions to ask to find out where you can use this to get started.
Lovely. Excellent. Good. It's lovely to have our next speakers here to actually explain what the talk's about. It's really good. Excellent. So thank you, Franz. Looking forward to that. Cool. So without further ado, we will hand it over to Eduardo. So I need to make sure I stop sharing, which should then make this one prime. Those of you online, you should now be able to see Eduardo's slides. Can I, Andy, I think you're the only person I can actually see. Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, cool. Chris, thank you very much. Eduardo, do you want to turn your mic on? Yeah. Should just end up with a green right there. And put that on. Yeah, good. Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much.
Good evening, guys. I'm Eduardo. And today what we're going to be talking about, I know that it doesn't say much, the title, but basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at Einstein's formula, but through the lenses of professional success. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to challenge that idea that you can hit the ground running just because your technical expertise will deliver the impact, will deliver the value. We're going to learn a few tips, tricks, and frameworks and techniques that will help you to get as close as you can to that hit the ground running idea. And we're going to, last but not least, we're going to learn how we can embed a little bit of AI into that to accelerate even more the whole thing. Questions, I'm going to leave them just at the end, just so we have time to go through everything, just to let you know. A little bit about myself. I'm from Venezuela, and I started coding since I was a kid. I think I started because I used to play this game that I think it's still alive. It's called Tibia. It's a multiplayer online game. And then I got so much into it that I started building my own servers. And it was so good just playing around and seeing the patterns and the logics and just trying to figure out things. At some point, I created my server, and people were liking it so much that I was like, I don't know, 13 or something like that. And I remember that I even got an offer for like £1,500 for that. I was like, whoa, I'm going to be rich with this. So that got me into, you know what, I'm going to pursue this and go into uni and study all of this stuff. Now, going, forward in the future, now in more than 15 years in the industry with professional experience, I've had the opportunity to work from very small companies, startups, to mid-size, to huge companies where just one of the products we were like, I don't know, 5,000 people in that product easily. And in that, we have managed to deliver, millions in savings, billions in revenue. So a little bit of everything, to be honest. And you start to see patterns in everywhere that you go. Currently, I'm a senior engineering manager in Digital. The guys already mentioned. Basically, what we do in Digital is a consultancy. And what we do is we help our clients accelerate all of that digital transformation. What does that mean? We guide our clients from, I have an idea. We will help you how to shape it. to we will help you how to build it. And even after that, we will even equip you. So after we leave, you will keep adding value to your project and to your company. So one of my passions, all about puzzles, board games, and salsa. This is a weird one. I used to run with my wife. I used to run a dance academy actually here for quite a few years. We stopped when COVID hit. And yeah, I think we got to a point that it was quite big. We had like 300-400 students every month. But then we realized that we didn't have a life. That doesn't mean that the passion is gone. I still dance. So if you want to talk about places to go dancing or board games, puzzles, and in the workplace, I'm all so much into finding patterns and improving and how we can get the most out of people, how we can create those high-performing teams. So if you want to talk about those things, I'm more than happy to chat about that. Oh, good. Sorry about that. Cool. This one.
Oh, that one. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Can you see me there?
Yeah.
Good. Perfect. Thank you very much. Hit the ground running. Have you guys seen this or heard this phrase ever?
Yeah.
I particularly don't like this phrase. I feel that there's a lot of pressure when I hear that. Especially the more senior you become, it feels that it's more and more pressure. It's in many clients and places that I have started, where they're expecting to hit the ground running, the expectation is like, oh, the savior is coming. You're the one that is going to solve all of our problems, because in paper, you have all of the knowledge, you're good, you know what you're doing, you have the experience, so you must know everything. So you must come here to solve all of our problems. That's not the reality. I don't know if you have faced that, but my experience, when you go to a place where it's hit the ground running, the reality is, oh my God, I need to deliver value. So what do? You go into documentation. Oh, I need to find what's going on. How can I get what's going on in here? And then you realize that most of this documentation is old, it's outdated, if they have documentation, because in many places they don't have any documentation, and all the knowledge is here in people's heads. Then what does end up happening? Because you have that pressure that you need to hit the ground running and you need to add value quickly. What ends up happening is you end up taking decisions because you have lots of blind spots. You end up tripping over these landmines that I call, but you didn't know. You didn't know about, some technical dependencies or some, in many places, even political agreements that you didn't know about those. And you find those by tripping over those. Then the trap is because you want to add value and you really want to do it with the best intentions. What you end up doing is focusing on what your expertise is. If my expertise is technology, what am I going to focus? I'm going to prove technology. Let's build the most shiny and amazing thing that we can build. But because you're lacking all of that information about the environment that you're joining, not always that's what they need. Or maybe that's not the problem that's going to add the most value to them. Then all of that actually has hidden costs, because you think that you're doing the best that you can, but there's time wasted. You end up chasing ghosts. I don't know if you have been in places where someone that is new shouts and says, stop everything. Stop what you're doing. I found that we shouldn't be doing this. I mean, no, mate. It's that there was a conversation and because you're not aware of that. Okay. I spent a whole week just researching all of this to have all of the information. It's like, no, it's not like that. So there's a lot of hidden costs, because it's time wasted, is money that the company is paying, for that. But also many of the things that you put forward as solutions, many of those, because you don't have all of the context or all of the information, in many cases, there's a lot of rework and having to, no, let's change it back. Yeah, it's good, but no, this doesn't fit to what we need. So those are the results. The result is a lot of mismatch on the solution that you put in. Like you put perfect solutions, industry standards, best practices, textbook solutions. But not everyone is Facebook. Not everyone is Google. Like, what's the point of improving performance and thinking, oh, when we have 13 billion customers in our websites, like, mate, but we are just a startup that we're just trying to test an idea. At most, we will get 10, 15 people. Like, do we need to spend all of this time and research and all of that? Then the other one is a lot of, as we mentioned, there's a lot of waste, because I've seen in many cases from different levels, people that put perfect solutions and they solve the problem, but maybe because they are missing some of the information, that solution actually creates more problems, because maybe in another place, with another context, with another environment, that solution made sense. But on this one, because they're not aware of some dependencies and stuff like that, that solution actually brings more problems than solutions. And there's a lot of inefficiency. As I mentioned, you are busy. Don't get me wrong. You jump in, you're trying to add value, and you're really busy all the time. Meetings, millions of meetings, and trying to find all of the information. But the reality is you're not adding that much value. At most, average, So I started asking myself, why? Why does this happen? And then, I don't know, me pondering on this stuff, I think it's because what I call the talent paradox. I don't know if you have experienced this, but you get someone that in paper, they look amazing, they look perfect. It's like, oh, this CV, this is the guy that we need. He's ticking all the boxes. We actually interviewed the guy. He passed flying colors, everything. And then the person joins, 3 months pass, 6 months. And the guy, where's the guy? We haven't heard much about the guy, or the guy hasn't actually added much value. It's like, what's going on in that? Or in many cases, the solutions and the stuff the guy's proposing, they don't make any sense. So, because what happens is, they might be very good on the technical maturity, your technical expertise. But if you don't focus on gathering the context, what are the problems? What is going on in here? It's just the impact that you will have. It will be average at most. And I don't know if you have experiences. This has happened to me quite a few times. That I join a company or a client or a project or a team, and then you talk to some of the people and you're like, this guy's not that good technically, but oh my God, the guy has been 20 years in the company. He knows everything. He knows where the things are, who did them, why, everything. And that guy is key. Like literally the company cannot live without that guy. But the guy is not that good technically, but the impact is huge. He's the one that everyone calls. Why? Because of the context. So it's almost feeling like the context is that accelerator to your technical expertise. In my head, it's almost, this is what I picture, honestly. It's like your technical expertise is that fire that you want to ignite. That's the potential that you have. The context is that gasoline that you will put in there that will allow you to, if it loads, it didn't load. It's not connected. Yeah. Bear with me. There you are. It's the internet, sorry. Yeah, so that's the context. It's like putting the accelerator to the fire, that catalyst. And that's where I started thinking about the Einstein formula. If we look at this and we change a little bit the value, so if we think about the context as the accelerator, E, we think like the excellence, the impact that you want to add, the value that you want to add. M is your technical maturity, your technical expertise, all of the knowledge that you have, architecture, software, whatever it is. And C is the context, is how much you know about the history, what happens, and all of those things. So in my head, think about it in this way. And sorry, I know that the not saying the thing straight, like you mentioned before. But yeah, think about it this way. If if the velocity of the car is your technical expertise, but the context is the map. You might know where you want to go. It doesn't matter how quick you go, how fast is your car. If you don't know how to get there, you will not get there. And if we think more about from the perspective of the companies, I don't know if you have been in places where in paper, all of the guys in the team, they're amazing, superstars, all of them. But the project keeps delaying and delaying and delaying, and you miss the deadlines. It's like, what's going on in here? And when you start to realize that, yeah, they're really good, but they're working in silos, so they don't figure out how they can work as a team. So that is actually costing time. And that is the fuel of the car, if you want to think about it. So if context is so important, that's the next question that I ask myself. How do we get the context? And then I started thinking and evaluating, how do we normally approach this thing? And it feels like we expect that the people, just by being there, they will absorb the context. Almost like we feel that by osmosis, the people will get this stuff. You know, yeah, get them to pair. In 3 months, 6 months, they will get all of what we're doing. I will tell you something. I'm not from this country, I'm from Venezuela. And I have friends that they've been in this country for 10 years and they don't speak any English. So it's not just by being there, you will absorb this stuff. So what I'm proposing is, let's stop thinking about that. Let's stop thinking that we're going to learn the things by osmosis. I start thinking, what are those stuff with all of the different experiences that I have had that has helped me to gather the context quickly so I can add value? And I started collecting a bunch of questions, and I started grouping them in 4 dimensions or categories or quadrants, or whatever you want to call them. And I call this the activation phase, because you're activating all of the potential that you have, all of that technical expertise, all of that technical maturity that you have, you're activating it. And the 4 categories is people, product, process, and technology. I call it PPTs, like the PowerPoint with an extra P. So how does that look like? Is the type of questions you have in there, and by categorizing them, think about, for instance, in people, what are the things that it would be good for you to know? What are your stakeholders? What are the dependencies that we have with other teams? What are the tools of communication that we use? Do we have ways of working? Do we have roles and clear roles and responsibilities? On the product side, do we have a product vision, roadmap? What are the KPIs? How do we know if the teams are doing well? On the processes, do we have definition of ready, definition of done? What is a release process? If there's a risk or something like that, how do we raise those stuff? On the tech side of things, what is the tech stack? Do we have documentation for our APIs? Do we have architecture diagrams? What about the integration points? Do we know what are our integration points with our project? Are we clear on those? So the idea with this is, the whole framework, the idea is you have all of these questions, and whenever you're going to start a project, in a new team or a company or whatever it is, you're going to prepare yourself. In many places, you will have like an onboarding, and they will cover many of this stuff, but maybe they will miss some of this. By you preparing yourself, they will give you 3 key things. The first one is, it will give you the context, because if they didn't tell you about, I don't know, the definition of ready, now you have asked and you know how it is. The second one that it will give you, that some people don't pay attention to, or don't have high regard to, is perception. Because you're starting in a new team or in a new client or a new company, they don't know anything about you. But by you preparing and asking these questions, people are going to say, oh, you know what? This guy's too. He's actually quite good. You know, he's asking the right question. I think we made a good decision by bringing him. And then the third one that's going to bring you is that you're going to be able to try to identify those low-hanging fruits. It's like, oh, they don't have definition of ready, definition of done. This actually might be something that will help them. And then you can start proposing changes, not in 6 months or a year, in a couple of weeks. And then we start saying, you know what, this person is really good. I got Liz in the team. It's been 3 weeks, and she's already, bringing value to the team. So what I'm going to propose is think about it in this way. If you want to hit the ground running, stop, pause, plan, solve the equation. Remember, E equals mc². So excellence, that's what you want to give. The maturity, that's your technical expertise. If you have gaps, work on them. Run into a course or something like that. Read some books or YouTube, something like that. And now that we have AI, actually you can fill those gaps quicker, easily. But get the context. Prepare yourself. Ask the questions. Remember, people, PPPT. PowerPoint with an extra P. People, process, product, and technology. Okay? Once you have all of the information, try to identify those low-hanging fruits, and then start proposing changes, adapting it to what the real problems that they have. Now, 3 years ago, this would have ended here. Because now we have AI, the next question that I asked myself was, can we improve this with AI? And as you can imagine, the answer is yes, of course. Because if you think about it before, if I was going to meet the principle of AI, I need to see, what should I ask this person? And that will take me a few days, to prepare myself. And then I have the conversation, and let's say, let's catch up. I ask the questions, then I will try to process all of that information. See, what problems do we have in here? And then try to identify the problems. And then it will take me a few more weeks to try to propose some changes. Now with AI, I could use AI to say, hey, I'm going to meet the group CTO. What questions should I ask? And then AI could tell me, you know what? From all of those activation questions that you have, ask these questions. And then once I have the answer, I could say, can you give me ideas of and solutions that I could propose? So I could go from not knowing anything to propose changes, not in months, not in weeks, not in days, in minutes. Now, how do we do that? The checklist will be exactly the same. Solve the equation, stop, gather the data, but remember, now you can use AI to prepare yourself. Ask the questions. Then once you gather the data, you can give that to the AI to say, hey, I gathered all the data. What do we do with that? Can you help me identify issues and low-hanging fruits? And then start proposing changes. I'm going to leave you with one last one on the how do we get the AI to generate those things? Because we're saying that we give all of that to the AI. How do we get the AI to generate those artifacts that are adapted to the context? And the framework that I use, maybe you have heard about this in different ways. I call it ROGUE. What is ROGUE? ROGUE comes from role, objective, background, and example structure. Because in AI, everything is about the prompt. The better the prompt is, the more structure and the more context you give, the better the results are. So with ROGUE, what do? The role, you will tell the AI, hey, act as a tech lead, act as a delivery manager. Then what is a specific task? We need a definition already, or there's no roles and responsibilities, clear roles and responsibilities in the program. Then what is the context? That's where you're going to give all of the information that you have gathered from the activation questions. You will give that to the AI. That's the context. And then the example output, you will say, hey, I want it as a list, simple list, or a checklist, or something like that. How does that look like in reality? So I'm talking a lot about this stuff. This is ROGUE in action. So you could say, hey, act as a senior agile delivery manager, create a strict definition of ready checklist for our next sprint. The background, this is the stuff that I got from the activation questions. My backend Java team is running in rework. We currently pull vague tickets into the sprint with no API contracts defined, missing edge cases, and no clear acceptance criteria. And the example structure, just format this in a 5-point checklist, including 1-sentence justification for each point explaining how it prevents rework. I give that to the AI will propose something, and I could try to show that, and I can start adding value pretty quickly. Now, because we have talked a lot, I wanted to show you a demo of this. I think there's someone in the door. Any questions so far? Cool. So, go for it.
Sorry, maybe it's a silly question, but how can we gather or improve the more context when how can we gather more context or gather all the data when you're in a team, but your job is very narrow and it's very difficult to gather data from other teams or gather more data?
So I will say the first thing that I will try to do is try to talk to the people. You know, in many cases where you join, the data is nowhere to be seen and it's in people's heads. And we need to start talking to people. Put a 15-minute chat, catch up with people, and start asking normal questions. It doesn't have to feel like an interview, you know, and slowly we'll start gathering that context. One of the things, especially when you're joining a new team, I always use the card of the new guy, because I always say, oh, sorry, I'm asking stupid questions. But I use that to, because there are lots of people that say, oh, you should know this. Yeah, but if I'm starting on a new client or a new project, or that, I will use that card as much as I can to try to gather that context quickly. So I will say, do that and get socialized with people. I honestly, I feel that after COVID, with all of the working from home, we lost that water cooler chats. And actually, there's so much that you can get from that. When you're in the office, you know, you're sitting next to people and you hear things, you ask, you help, you create those relationships. I think it's very important. So that's what I would suggest you to do. You can start with like a 15-minute chat. Hey, I'm having this problem, or hey, have you heard about this? Sometimes what I would say is don't go, it would be it would be weird if, for instance, I out of the blue, I'm a developer and I just say, hey, can I talk to you, you know, the group CTO, can I have a 15 minutes? And say, well, what do you want to talk about? You know, if there's so much disconnection, but in many cases, actually people are quite close. If you do that, I'm pretty sure that people will say, yeah, why not? And you can say, hey, I'm new or something like that. I'm trying to get to know people. It's creating those relationships. Sometimes we forget that we're human beings and we're not just inputs and outputs. So use that. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you.
Let me bear with me. So because we're going to do, I wanted to show you the whole activation framework. Sorry, I'm going to stop presenting for a second. But as everything that I show you is a lot of, oh yeah, you need to write to the AI, put activation questions, then write another prompt. As a techie, I said, I'm not going to be doing that. So let me show you. Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes.
There you are. Let me show you an app that I created. What this app does is it uses all of the activation questions, and it uses the rope framework as well, use both of those to help you prepare for your meetings, gather the data, and then suggest improvements and changes to give you all of those insights. So in here, what I was thinking is, I don't want to start typing all of those prompts over and over and over and over again with each person that I'm talking to. I already gather a database of questions. I have hundreds of those. Like I've been creating this for more than 10 years by this point. So I know a little bit of what questions make sense and to talk to who, but I wanted to automate all of it. So with this application, the first thing is we can create a project. The more context we give, the better the outcome will be from the AI. So we can, in this case, I don't know much about it. So this is the activation demo project. Why not? And then let's say that I'm going to prepare for a meeting. And let's say that I'm a senior Java developer, you know. And then let's say that I'm meeting, I don't know, Jane. And Jane, let's say that she's the tech lead of the team. And let's say that I'm joining a team, an existing team. It's not a new team, it's an existing team. I haven't given too much context, to be honest, to the AI. So when I click that, what this is doing is from the whole list of the activation questions that I have, I'm saying, give me which questions this person will have the authority or will have the information to tell me. So these are the questions that the AI gave me. Like, what is the branching strategy for the team? What are the ceremonies that we have? What is the flow from we pick up a ticket to the point that we are delivering it? How are the environments currently provisioned? Do we deploy on-premise or cloud? How do we do login and monitoring? What else do we have? Do we have a QA team, or is everything done by the developers? Then on the more techie stuff, like what is the tech stack? What is the Java version that we have? What database do we use? Do we have any third party, that we're dealing with? What pain points we should know about? Then on the processes, like what is the CI/CD? Do we have CI/CD? What is the release process? What about the PRs? How do we merge the PRs? A bunch of questions. All of that is from the database that I have collected through the years. For this demo, what I wanted to show you is, let's answer one of these ones. Let's say that I talked to Jane, and one of the questions was, what is your process for merging PRs? And let's say that Jane, she's quite frustrated. So what she told me is, you know what? I'm quite frustrated because we have a very strict rule of two people that have to approve your pull request to be able to merge them. But somehow, we still get a lot of code smells and horrible code into our production system. And that leads to a lot of rework in our project. And the problem is, because we started digging into that, is that the juniors, they basically rubber stamp that looks good to me, just to go fast. And the tech lead and the seniors, they do try to do a deep dive into the code review, but they become in the bottleneck. They cannot go line by line. So I have saved the answer. Added this, again, the more context we can give to the tool, the better the responses are. But in this case, I'm not going to give anything. I have saved all of that, and now what I'm going to do is going to use a role framework to say, with this answer that I gave you, clearly they have a problem with the PRs. Give me some insights. And what this is doing is using the role framework, role, all of that thing that I told you, and this is what the AI came with. Just publish some code review standards. I created this. Let me stop here for a bit. Just because I like to be more visual. For me to choose what am I going to propose, that's what I created in this way. This way to visualize it. That you have these quadrants. So the left one is low effort to high effort, and the vertical axis is impact. So low impact to high impact. So it's actually quite easy to see what are quick wins, what are big bets, what things we should avoid. Like, yeah, that's an idea, but I shouldn't pursue that. So in there we could see like what things the AI is proposing. So we can see codify and publish code review standards in there. I can click them. We'll see in a second. Explain all of the stuff that I'm. So if we click them, we will see a summary of what the solution will be. So in this case, have a living document that defines what good looks like in the PRs, talking about naming, tests, test coverage, login, security, performance, all of this stuff. Then the pros, like removes ambiguity, give juniors a learning path, makes reviews faster and consistent. And then it shows us the effort and the impact. So this one is, according to the AI's, mid-effort and high impact. We have replaced the blanket to approval rule with risk-based gates. What else we have? Mandate pre-merge CI quality gates. So this is like Sonar check like for those code smells that the tech lead told us about. And then some other stuff like introduce reviewer rotation with metrics. So assign every PR to a random reviewer plus one domain expert. And last but not least, run weekly review dojo sessions. So run 30-minute live sessions where teams review recently merged PRs that cost rework. I think all in all, to be honest, those are things that I would have thought of if I had that conversation with that tech lead. You know, there's another example that I wanted to give you, and I promise that's the last. This is a more fledged one. Like I put way more information to this one. Like what is the project about? And then on this one, I'm simulating. I'm talking to the head of product and the CTO. So with the head of product, what are the kind of questions that they are suggesting me? Things like how do we get customer research feedback? What are the sprints? How is it working between product and engineering? And let's say that they told me, no, it's not working. There's no product vision. There's non-existent. They don't have a way to look at the metrics. And then the CTO, what are the stuff, like what is the tech stack and stuff like that? So let's say that Sarah Chen, what she told me is that they have slow deploys, they're manual, they don't have CI/CD. There's a PHP code base that has a lot of spaghetti code and has no tests, and they don't have login and monitoring in that. When I asked the AI to give me some insights, this is what it gave me. So implement CI/CD, add some monitoring and login, then get product analytics and feedback mechanisms for the customers, develop a product vision, because they don't have, refactor the legacy PHP code base, improve the collaboration between the engineering and product teams. So if you see that the more context you give to this, the better are the results that it gives. This is just an example of how quickly, if you see, this took literally minutes. Like I recorded just because I didn't know if I was going to have internet here or anything like that. So I said, you know what, I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to just record the video. But literally, it's like I went from not knowing anything to potentially proposing something, not in weeks, not in days, in minutes. Of course, albeit this is quite an automated way, but this is using all of the basic stuff that I just showed you. It's using the activation framework, it's using the rope framework, it's putting all of that together. And you can do the same thing. You could use grab, create your own database of questions in your area of expertise, because of course our expertise is tech. This works really well for that. But if you start talking to me about advarks or something like that, I wouldn't know anything about that, But create your own list of activation questions. What are the things in your experience that has helped you to start adding value pretty quickly? And then give all of that to the AI and say, hey, I'm meeting this person with this role. This is my role. What questions should I ask? And then from there, remember, don't accept everything. I even added to this because I didn't want to just type again. If you see there's a regenerate questions. I don't like it. I just regenerate questions. They know me. And I can choose which ones I want to keep, which ones I want to discard. Because this AI sometimes spits things that don't make much sense. But I would say give it a try. Everyone that I have shared this with, by the way, in the very manual way, the only payment that I have asked is, give me feedback. In 3 months, 6 months, how did it go? And everyone has told me, like, they love me, and, hitting home runs, I'm the rock star, all of those things. So all good stuff. I think that's what I have for today, guys. I'm going to reshare because why not? Just to have any, bear with me. Let me stop sharing for a second. And okay. Can you see? Good. Now, any questions? Anyone? Go for it.
Okay, two statements leading into a question. Okay, so first, obviously, it's important concept. it's obvious that the actual questions is obviously very specific to seniority levels and those kind of things. So as you say, you need to think of it. That's the first thing. And I also recognize that the act of asking and answering is important. You can't just get the changes. That's the answers to the questions. It's the process that works. Right? Because that's what it activates your brain. Now, but you are presenting this very much from the individual point of view, as in this is what I should do when I join the team. Given your leadership role, have you looked at doing it from the other way and making the company with this framework in place so that you are onboarding people faster?
Exactly.
And how does that work?
Yeah.
You tried that.
You hit the nail in the head. That was the first approach that I had. Oh, how me as an individual can actually get it. I started to realize, oh, everyone that are getting this is actually quite good. Now the next thing that we're trying to do is, oh, wait a minute. If we know that this is going to create rock stars, why don't we create an onboarding that has all of this? So now with AI, we can actually give all of these questions and say to the AI, you know what, go and find all of these answers in the documentation that we have. And if not, let's start feeding them. And then we can even, after we have all of that, we can say, hey, you know what, Lizzie is joining. This is the role that Lizzie has in the team or in the project or in the program or whatever it is. Can we create an onboarding personalized for her? We already have all the answers. We already have all of those things. So it's really good that you're thinking that way, because actually that's the next part. It's like, how do we start not only adding value for ourselves, it's how we start adding value for the team and the community. But yeah, I think that's the next thing that we're going to try to do.
Yeah. So another talk when you've done that.
I've got a question. So it feels like the AI is prompting humans now. Are you comfortable with that?
That's a very good question. I think the way that I see AI is still see it as a tool. Is accelerating one and is activating the potential that we have. Yes, the AI is helping me to ask the right questions, right? But it's not the AI doing the work for me, because if you see those are literally just summary of potential solutions and pros and cons. I shouldn't, as I said at the beginning, don't take anything that the AI gives you for granted. Always have that critical thinking. No, I don't think that will work. No, I don't agree with this. I think I showed you the real thing this afternoon, and we were trying with, to be honest, I was expecting that it was going to go worse than it actually went. Because it was the example was something that was nothing related to tech. It was about adverts or something like that. It was like, hey, I don't have the questions for that. But actually, it gave some
gave good answers.
Yeah.
He gave directional questions, which allowed you to have the next level of conversation rather than having to have the first level of conversation, because that was what was required.
Yeah.
Good.
But in many cases, like, no, use your technical expertise to say, no, I don't think this will be good. This is more like, hey, maybe you forgot about asking this. So use it in that way instead of like, oh yeah, the AI is doing everything and I'm just the middleman. I wouldn't treat it like that.
So first of all, love it. Yeah, blatantly stealing it. I'm trying to think of, because in my career, I've been both the person trying to onboard it quickly. I've also been I'm Joe Logs, who's been working on this for 15 years, and had people coming to me asking, okay, I want to pick your brains about this stuff. And my only concern with having the low-level questions is, I guess it's the equivalent of somebody saying, okay, tell me about this tree, tell me about this tree, tell me about this tree. And I want to say, look, can we just step back? You need to know what this forest looks like. I'm trying to explain how this system works with this system and what the business process is and all those kind of side discussions. My only concern is if you're very prescriptive and you've got sort of, I need to answer this question and this question, you lose the ability to say, actually, I need to step back and just have almost like a free-form conversation to actually build that wider context. Is that a challenge you've come across? Is that something you know how you've been able to architect your questions to manage?
So I think to be honest, and I think it relates to what Adam was saying. I wouldn't say to anyone, don't ask anything that is not these questions. It's almost like, no, have conversations, but maybe have these ones, in your backpack. That is good. It's good insights that you will get. I agree completely with you. In many cases, what I end up doing with the people in my team and the people that I work with is, no, let's take a step back. What are we trying to solve here? Like that solution that you put in there, where is that requirement coming from? Is actually the business or whoever is going to use it has asked us that? Or we're just doing it because it looks shiny and nice? So is that, no, take a step back. The actual questions, these examples that I gave you, for instance, the tech lead one, is very low level. So it's really the way that I structure the prompt. It's a little more complicated for the application, a little more complicated than they just wrote one. I tweaked it a little bit to improve the results that I was getting. But it's based on the same thing. So the idea is, depending on who you're talking to, like if I'm talking to the head of product, I'm not going to be asking what is the branching strategy, right? So the idea is that you have the right conversations with the right people, I will say. But again, I wouldn't use this as, only these ones. I would use it almost like an addition to whatever conversation.
A question online, as well as I think somebody's just joined. Okay, a question online from Alejandra. In my current role, the context is often quite chaotic, even contradictory, depending on who you talk to. How would you recommend adapting the activation phase in that kind of environment?
I think that's really good. Because actually, I was having a chat with Stephen, our club exec. And one of the things that he was saying is, one of the first questions that he asked is like, what is the biggest pain point that you have? And the interesting thing is, depending on who you're talking to, the answer is completely different. Oh yeah, our biggest problem is that the tech doesn't work. And you talk to the tech people, no. The problem is product. Product is not giving us the requirements. So how are we going to build the right stuff? So I think what I will say is, use, when you're gathering this information, if you see that it's and I know that it's difficult, and I've been in that position. If you see that it's contradictory information, you have captured that. Bring it. If I have Stuart that is saying something, Adam that is saying something, Alicia is saying something, I will put them into a meeting. Hey guys, can we have a chat? Because I'm getting 3 different messages in here. What's going on in here? Let's actually agree. Is the case that we are perceiving something in a different way, or it's actually that there's misconceptions in some areas? So again, what I will say is use this almost as gathering all of that information, so you can actually say, oh, look, I talked to Stuart and he told me this, and try to organize that and have your points. So when you talk to all of them at the same time, you're very clear on what you're going to be discussing. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Question. Do you ever consider that you might activate yourself too much, that you weigh yourself too thin? You can't support everyone that comes to you in the end because you've gone too much into it.
I don't know if Chris is still in the call. Chris is actually with me in the current client that I am, and that's actually what has happened. I activated myself so hard on this one that actually I have become that single point of failure. And there I'm leading technically the whole program, but I find myself actually talking about the business requirements with business and telling no, that's not the way that it works. This is the way that it should work. And actually the biggest problem that we're having now is what you were saying before. It's like, oh, good, how we can pass all of this information around. So one of the things that we're discussing is, let's start trying this, but to activate everyone. But in the meantime, we still need to pass all of that knowledge. The good thing is the guys are great and they've been quite proactive. And now we're applying a few techniques to start distributing the knowledge. Because if I win the lottery, not to say that I don't, if I win the lottery and I decide not to go there, there will be a huge impact in the program. So yeah, I have experienced that. Any other questions?
Maybe it's silly, but so technically it was really awesome that so many questions and you have that next level of conversation. But how to understand any empathy point of view or any behavioral context? Because when you ask or go through this context, your mind is also filled with all the logical questions and answer and conversation. But every time the other person is not on to the same level, but you expect to have that next level of conversation. So how AI can help in that, or how so it will same as a behavioral approach we take, or AI also can help in that.
So I will say, and this is my personal approach to this. This is to have them there to help you and support you. When you're inviting people to have conversations, don't treat them as inputs and outputs. Don't make this become an interview. Actually, the most extreme one, not to put my sister that's in the call under the bus, I shared with her the activation questions, and she was going to start a new program, and she sent a document and said, guys, I need you to answer all those questions. When are you going to have all of those answers for me? No, that's not the way that it works. Create the connections, have the conversations. So remember that you're dealing with humans. It's true, it's important, the tech and all of those things, but I would say remember that we're humans. Create the connections. Use this almost as a support more than a strict guide of just go one by one. So if you do that, what will end up happening is, this is not hating me. What will end up happening is you're not going to create those connections. I have asked so many questions to some of the people that are actually in the call, like Alice and Lucy. They're working with me. But to be honest, the way that I try to do is to create those connections. It's good to create that environment, and you can bring those conversations. Sometimes you will not be able to ask the questions, and that's fine as well. But at least you have that these are the information that you need to somehow gather. So I will say maybe the AI will help you with that, but it's still on the people side of things, and I'm not the best one of those things, I have to say. On the people side of things, I will stay on the people and not give that to the AI. I don't know if that answers your question.
Follow up on that. How many questions is too many?
How many questions do I have?
No, it's too many for one session where you're.
Or, to be honest, you could go in one, depending on how long is the session and what is the question. Like if you're talking about, I don't know, the architecture, or you're talking about some complex process or something like that, you could use the whole session in one question. Yeah. You might say, no, please, quick. You have 2 minutes, answer, because I have 32 questions that I have to No, right? No, I would say take it, flow with it, and yeah. If you manage to get one, if you manage to get 15. Yeah. Any other questions?
So in larger organizations, you've got the information can be quite distributed. I mean, it will live in some people's heads. It will also live in Confluence. It also live in other forms of official documentation, such as policies, which are typically going to be PDFs published on some kind of internal portal that nobody can find anymore and
outdated.
And yeah. But also you're going to have talks with people, and they're going to have different impressions about each one of those different kinds of things. Now, when you've got, they say, you should find all more details about this one in Confluence. Yeah, you need to. And then you look in Confluence and you find that there's several different versions of the same thing in Confluence. Different generations created by different people. They say different things. And at the same time, you don't want to go back to those people and say, well, I don't have a single authoritative source for this particular bit of information. How do you reconcile that? Because it feels quite hard. I think especially in large organizations, you're going to have teams that are supposed to work in the same structure, in the same kind of pattern. They will have their own onboarding guides, and they will say different things. And you think, are you actually doing different things, or is it the same? But just you've forgotten to update the documentation. Why do you have so many different copies of documentation? And then you talk to the people, they will also have different impressions about each one of those things. So very often it's like, even if you can extract some information and some suggestions and some insights and some actionable points from there, you still have to check yourself several times because it may be based on stale or inaccurate impressions of that information. So how do you deal with that? If you've had to deal with that, and it's not necessarily, I mean, yes, with AI, we can scan through a lot more information, but how do you deal with the reconciling aspect of that information?
I would say because we have that same problem. There's so many versions of the same thing. In the current program that we have had in 1 year, I think I have had 6 different POs in my team. Each one of them came with a lot of energy saying, I'm going to solve all of the problems. Let me actually just chase this ghost. Just went there and they created a bunch of documentation, conference, all of that. And again, and again, and again, and again. So what I will say is that is a quite complex problem, especially because you have so many different sources of the data. There's like, which one should I believe, I would say that nowadays, because in not all of the places you have access to AI, but if you have access to AI, you can, if you're gathering all of that information, I will try to use show me what are the differences between all of us. And then start finding who is the person that should the authority on this. One of the questions in there is who is the person that makes the decisions? Who are the stakeholders? So is there anyone that is responsible for that? So I will say, if I was in that, what I will do is, and if you can use AI, try to use it as a tool. Then, hey, I have all of these documents. What is the difference between them? And let's do a comparison. And if I can find who is the person or the group, because it doesn't have to be only a person, I'll say, hey guys, you have 77 different versions of this standard. And these are that's already, you're already adding value there, because you're saying, you know what? I have found that there's 77 differences, and these are the differences. Should we try to create a unified version of this? In that way, you're already adding value.
Yeah. In cases like that, you're going to have some people that are going to be ungrateful for all the stuff you found, particularly because they're none of your business. Why are you complaining about standards and policies that you should just be following and not finding issues with? When all you wanted was to figure out which one should I follow, and you discover there are inconsistencies here that someone needs to look at, it feels like you're just uncovering more and more obstacles. But I mean, the challenge is real. That's the that's the problem. And usually, the correct information is locked in people's heads. They know which one the real thing is. So those kinds of conversations that you have with people feel like they're crucial and critical, because the people that actually follow those standards, they know maybe which ones are the real standards.
Yeah, that's true. I think I've been in places where you have, this is the README that you need to follow, or whatever it is, and then you follow things like, this is not working. What's going on in here? And then you talk to the people and say, oh, yeah, no, don't do that. You know that it says step 1, 2, 3, skip step 2 and 3, and actually go to step 5, and there's, that tiny little part there, that's actually what you need to do. Maybe that's not what it says, right? So I will say there's 2 things that I see that. One is you need to create those relationships, because it's very easy for people to become defensive. If you build those relationships, and the way that you approach those things is very important. If I come and say, all of this is wrong, people, their egos would be, damaged. But if I come, hey, I'm trying to figure this out, and sorry that I'm asking stupid questions, but I can see all of these versions. which one should I, or these are the differences, like, can you help me try to put together, and actually I want to help the next person that comes. So you're not saying, hey, you guys are horrible, what the fudge are you doing? What you're saying is, I want to pay it forward. I want to help the next person so the next person doesn't suffer what I suffer. It's the same achievement, just the approach is different.
So we're at time for questions. So can we have a round of applause for everyone?
So if you want to know more about this, we can connect on LinkedIn. If you want to play around more on the app that I just showed you, let's go that. Now we're opening for some beta testing. Yeah, so we're going to select that.
Online.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Right. We have a couple more slides and then we can go to the bar. You stop sharing on there. And I start sharing on here again. My eyesight is getting terrible. I'm just becoming an old grey man. So that was that. So that was good. So thank you, Eduardo. Let me get rid of that so we can see a bit more screen. We've done the Q&A. Just a reminder that this time next month we have friends talking about embedding AI systems and processes. So looking forward to that. Nudge people, bring your friends, sign up on our Luma link on there, because we are moving more and more stuff into Luma. At some point we will exit Meetup, but not quite yet. Yeah, so that's where we are. In terms of shout outs for other events coming up, there is an event on, so those of you who spent any time with me, I will talk about Cynefin and Wardley mapping at any time I can. There's an event on Friday with Philippe talking about patterns of digital strategy using Wardley mapping. So that's Friday lunchtime. There's an interesting Anthropic advanced session next week, which Anthropic are running, which is at 5 o'clock on March 24th. I had to check what time that was. I had checked it on my computer this morning because I didn't know when time was changing, because we change our clocks at some point and the Americans change at a different time. That's really helpful. So that's going to be interesting. There is another session from our friends at Product Tank in Oxford coming up. So Product Tank Oxford on the 25th. So managing your career like a PM and how to succeed an AI transformation. So that should be exciting as well. There is a good Product Tank Reading session coming up, but it's not on Meetup. It's not on Luma. I can't find the details of it. They mentioned it last time we were here. So Lizzie did a great talk at that. I can't find it, but there is one coming up. I think it's the end of March, but is it April? Okay, that's probably why I couldn't find it in March. There we go. There is, and then there's Brand with us, which is good. And then I put one on in May because this was going to be in April. It's a session that we're running in London and Canary Wharf. Agile Assembly, so it's me and about 4 other people like me doing a panel over at Zuperbank, so which is going to be interesting. It was going to be in this month, that's why it kind of made the list, but it got bumped because of the tube strike, so that's now in May at this point. So there you go. So please have a look at those, sign up to those, go to those things. Does anyone have anything else they would like to shout out, either online or in the room? No? Cool. Final slide. Oh, no, skip that one. We are still looking for speakers. So Franz is doing the next session, but we still have to find someone to do our talk in May. We will accept lightning talks. It worked quite well at the Product Tank one last because they had a thing about 6 speakers, which was really interesting. But so we'll put some stuff out. If you want to speak, just get in touch with me or Adam, and we will line that up. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a very good evening. Thank you very much online for everyone. Cool. Cheers. Have a very good evening. Bye-bye.